Hey, welcome to the Daria Hammer podcast. This is season 3, episode 2, and today, in honor of Father's Day, I would like to share my conversation with a good friend and colleague of mine, whose story is a perfect example of the importance of a role model and its importance to the future success. In my opinion, there is no better role model than one's father, someone you grew up with and looked up to since the day you were born. Someone that provides, protects, loves, and inspires you. A figure larger than life. Your hero. As the son of Greek immigrants, Dr. Manolis Manolakakis grew up in the suburbs of New Jersey. He grew up with the basic and most important values: hard work and kindness, instilled in him by his father. According to him, it was his father who taught him the meaning of perseverance and determination, and to always do what it takes. Dr. Manolakakis is dual board certified cosmetic and facial reconstructive surgeon and the director of advanced facial surgery in Shrewsbury, New Jersey, and Greenwich Village in Manhattan, New York City. He currently runs a fellowship program in facial cosmetic surgery and inspires the new generation of surgeons to continue his legacy. I hope you enjoy my conversation with him. All right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Daria Hammer podcast. We had a 2-month hiatus. I was really busy with work life. And as you all know, I do this really for fun. And the guests I invite are very special guests, people that I highly respect, admire, and just want to get to know. And the only thing I'm doing is while I do so is to share it with you, and why keep it for myself. And so today I have a very special guest. The reason why he's special, because we're kind of doing exactly the same thing. We kind of, at least career-wise, we went this very similar path, and today we share very similar passion, at least professionally. One of the things that I recognize with my guest today is that he's truly passionate about what he does, and he truly means what he does. And it's only evident. All you have to do is watch his YouTube video and his social media, and what you see is what you get. And that's why I admire and respect him. So welcome, Manolis, my friend and a dear colleague, to my podcast. And thanks for agreeing to come here on a Sunday morning, taking time out of your busy life. And we were just joking, work never stops. So thanks for agreeing to come in as my guest, and really excited to have you here today and share your passion, your life, your future endeavors, and what you're doing currently with my audience.
Daria, thank you so much. It's really an honor to be asked anytime from anyone to sit for a podcast, to lecture, to do whatever. And before I came on this morning, I looked at the list of characters you've had on your podcast so far, and I'm looking at my name and I'm looking at their name, and I'm saying, wait a minute, I don't belong on this podcast.
Oh, no.
You have really top notch doctors and surgeons. And if you look at any of their names, everyone would know who they are. So again, I'm honored and I'm humbled by being asked to
my pleasure. And I think we all have a story to tell. We all can learn from each other, no matter what a hierarchy or status is in the society. And that's one of the things that I think people a lot of times, and you're being, by the way, very, 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 very humble, saying what you just said. But again, and I appreciate that, because humbleness means kindness. Humbleness means self-awareness. And those are the things that make who you are. And that's why I really love to spend the next 45 minutes talking to you and seeing how the person who you are was created and how you changed in the past. I guess you're 35 in the past 35 years and so forth.
35. Man. I'm old. I'm 48.
Well,
Thank you. I'll take the compliment, bro. Anytime.
I'm telling what I see behind the beard. Okay, I'm just talking about what's behind the beard. Okay, so anyway, so why don't you tell the audience before we jump right into everything?
Right.
Why don't you tell the audience where you practice and where you grew up, and so that they have some context before we get into the.
So I grew up in Ocean Township, New Jersey, which is a suburb near the beach, about 10 minutes from the beach. I practice in Shrewsbury, which is about 15 minutes from there, and also in Manhattan, New York City. Mm-hmm. My early years of growing up, I'm from Greek descent. I'm first generation Greek. So the Greek culture, as I'm sure you know, the Iranian culture is, very similar with family. Mm-hmm. So every year after school would end, first day after school, we would get on a plane and go to Greece and essentially stay there until the day before school started. So I kind of, when people say, where'd you grow up? I grew up both in, United States, but also in Greece during the summers. It's funny, my friends, from the States all went to Disney. I've never been to Disney because that was like a summer trip that everyone, and I don't even know, I didn't even know what Disney was growing up. So, which, it's a double-edged sword, but yeah. So yeah, I have practicing now 17 years, I think. My newest office was the Manhattan office, and that's been about 4 years. So,
mm-hmm. So, it's funny because, I was born and I grew up in Germany. Mm-hmm. And I just came over to the States like 23 years ago now, 22 and a half years ago. So I was the same way. So even though I grew up in Germany, people ask me where you grew up. I say I grew up in Germany and Iran because every summer I went back to visit my family, and those are the funnest and fondest memories that I had. And we talked about it a couple of days ago. It was so important when you are in touch with your culture, with your heritage, because you not just to wave it around, put it in front of people's faces, but our culture and heritage goes thousands of years back, and there's something to say about that, about the importance of culture, how it makes us, and how it builds our characters and our values. Of course, you're sitting home and you're being taught that by your parents and by your family, but when you go there, you see a different side of it. It kind of everything starts making sense. And then you kind of take the good things out of it, and then just you realize what the bad things are, the things that really won't really work for you. They don't make sense because you see your own culture from a different perspective, maybe not as biased, or is not really part of you yet, but it kind of is or is becoming, and you're being molded, and then you can really pick the good things and leave the bad things, and then that's eventually it becomes who you are today. So tell me, how did your culture, being in touch with your culture, shape your personality and who you are today, and the values you have now, and how it helps you in your daily life, and whether you're aware of them or not, how do you utilize them?
Yeah, that's a pretty deep question. I mean, it's so growing up Greek Orthodox, the church played a huge role in kind of our family, and we'd go to church every Sunday, and we would have the priests over for dinner. We would have the priests over in the States, also the priests in Greece, where my family is from, a very small island. So my family in general was very connected to the church. So, the morality of, how to act and how to act towards other people, how to act towards yourself. I mean, those things were kind of ingrained early on. Family plays a huge role. I have a huge extended family. And again, that, as you said, you take the good and the bad. There's good and bad having a big family, and there's a good bad having a Greek family. I mean, they're great people. They love them, but they can be overbearing at the same time. So you learn how to kind of manage the seas and try to say, okay, I'm gonna allow this, I'm not gonna allow that. But my parents, played a huge role. My dad was my number one mentor, my number one role model. Without him, I wouldn't even be here. Would be completely off.
What kind of dad was he? Was he one of those, you know, passive advice giving dads? Was he like more of those old school tyrants? Was he kind of like a buddy type of dad? What kind of dad was your dad? Just curious.
Um,
If you could
he wasn't
classify.
he wasn't a tyrant. He wasn't a tyrant, but he knew how to push my buttons, and he did it in a way where he would make me better in a sense of like in challenging me. And I guess he knew that, by challenging me, he was going to get the best out of me. I can tell you a million stories, but he was 5'7.5", short guy.
Mm-hmm.
His grip, his handshake was like a vice grip. Um, he was a tough SOB, man. He didn't, just a quick story about my dad is he didn't meet his dad until he was 13 years old. Because when he was born in Greece, and then the war happened. His dad went to Pittsburgh. So he didn't really even see his dad until 13 years of age. He then came to Pittsburgh, he worked at his dad's bar. He would do bar backing, and he would have to throw out the drunks at the end of the night. So he fought a lot growing up. He then went into pharmacy school, became a pharmacist, and he was, a great dad. And he was always present, whether it was a karate class that I took, it was soccer, football practice, football games. I think the only time he ever missed a football game is he was laid up and he had a pinched nerve in his lower back, and his leg was numb. I think that was the only time he actually. So the guy, I don't know where he even had time. I'm looking at my time, and I'm saying this guy worked from 9 o'clock in the morning to 9 at night, and then he would dip out just for like whatever things that I was doing.
That's awesome.
He was a huge role model, and I'm looking at my life and saying, I don't have kids right now. We don't have kids. How would I do that if I had kids? I don't know if I would be able to peel myself away from that. So my dad played a humongous role in who I am. And, not to say my mom didn't do it, but, when I look at my role model, it's my dad for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a tough son of a bitch. I mean, he was tough as nails.
So how do you feel it shaped you? All the things, I mean, the things you're telling me that of course, this is like old school hardworking dad, but then hardworking present dad, which by the way, it's not very common. I mean, I interviewed guests and I've seen friends and family. I mean, they're like, I've never seen my dad. I mean, I just saw him kiss me goodnight. And, I mean, my dad was a great dad, who was my role model just because he was passionate about just how he treated people and his patients. He was a physician, and that's what inspired me. But as far as like games and stuff like that, I mean, and that was maybe in Germany was like that. I mean, here in the US is different. I guess parents are more involved in sports. In Germany, sports is not like a big deal. So parents rarely are present. So I can't even compare. It's not a fair comparison. But how did it shape you today? You feel all those things. You may not be aware, maybe all subconscious, but is there anything you're aware of?
I mean, if you ask my wife says I'm exactly like my dad. So
that's a compliment.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's a huch compliment.
Yeah, are you kidding?
He's the guy, man, and for me, he's like the man. I think his kindness towards other people, and he was very, very giving. He was a very giving man, to his family, to his customers, to whoever really needed it. So I would say that shaped me, number one. But his tenacity, his determination, his willing to basically, do what it takes to get it done. I think I had that role model. I was lucky enough to have a role model to see what he did. I saw him get up to work every day. I saw him do things that I was just like, wow. So I think that just by osmosis, just by breathing the same air, you pick those things up, man,
Yeah.
and,
I mean,
I hope that I provide, for my family as, as he did.
well, I'm sure you do. I mean, if you look at your own career, people don't realize how hard it is. They only see the final product, and then it's easy to judge and look. And people always say, well, he probably had great opportunities, and he probably got lucky here and there. They don't realize how much work it takes to get to what you are doing today, and how many sacrifices, how much sweat, how many tears, how many sleepless nights. I mean, it's hard to fathom, in all fairness to people that are not involved into the medical field. It's, to all fairness to them, it's just you can't expect people to understand that, right? And it's not to kind of say, we had a tough life, because we didn't. Frankly, for you to get to where you are today, it's not just hard work. It's so much of it is passion, and when you put passion into the mix, the work becomes, it's still hard, but it's, no one put a gun to your head, right? So it's every decision you made on your own. It may have started with someone motivating you, or someone giving you advice very early in your life, and that's what kind of initiated the path. But you went through your path yourself, and so for the audience, Manolis is a facial cosmetic surgeon and an oral and maxillofacial surgeon, which really the whole path to do what he does today. How many years did that take you?
I think it's 13.
13 years. Yeah. I remember a patient asked.
Yeah. After high school, 13 years.
Yeah. I see the fact that you had to think.
Yeah.
I went through the same thing. A patient once asked me the same question, and I didn't actually know. I had never counted. And I always use that example because I asked myself the question, like, how come I don't know the year? Right. Because I felt kind of stupid, and the patient looked at me like I'm making something up, because I couldn't give her the straight answer. And I realized, like, it was never about the years. It didn't matter to me. It was just a journey. In a journey, you don't count your hours. It's not like you're waiting on something. So tell me, how was your journey to become a facial cosmetic surgeon, and how that started, and some of the challenges that you had to face along the path, as far as adversity, as far as hurdles, as far as facing naysayers. Most importantly, I could tell you from my personal experience, naysayers put such a chip on my shoulder. It's almost like they gave me strength. That's why I love Tom Brady, because it's like, it's the same thing. You tell him you can't do something, like, oh, just wait for it. So tell me about that a little bit.
So you're 100% right. What we do takes a lot of self-motivation, as you said, the years of the journey, and that's just the internal drive that you have. I think we're just built like that. But yeah, man, the naysayers, they are, you are 100% right. I love naysayers. Like, for me, a naysayer is fuel to my fire. It is the absolute best thing that probably has ever happened to me in my career, as a sense of like drive. And so we'll get to that in a second. So anyway, so the journey, man, the journey was amazing. I started working with an oral surgeon when I was 18. And the funny story about that is, my dad came. I got to go 1 second with my dad's story. My dad came into my office.
I love the dad story. So I think it's so important.
And it's important because this is kind of what put me into this field. So my dad comes into my bedroom. It was after a night of going out with my friends. I was second year of college. My grades were and he comes in and he's like, "Oh, I got your grades." I was like, "Oh yeah." He's like, "So you wanted to be a doctor?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "You're not going to get into school with those grades." He's like, "You're not going to get into medical school." And I said, "Well, I'll become just to get him off my back. So, I'm going to become an oral surgeon." First of all, I didn't even know what an oral surgeon was at 19 years of age. I was just trying to get him off my back. So my sister's neighbor was an oral surgeon, and he said, "Okay, let me call your sister up. Her neighbor is an oral surgeon." She calls him. They're like, hey, we have a case going on right now. Get your ass down here in 15, starts in 15 minutes. So I'm like, oh shit, this is real. I have to go down. The office is 5 minutes away.
No excuses.
There's no more excuses. I put on like a khaki pants and I don't know what the hell I put on. I was just so nervous. So I walked in.
I can't imagine you in khakis. I just can't imagine. If you ever find a picture with that, please.
I will. I'll find one for you. Yeah. I'll send it along. So I go into the office, and the case has already started, and I'm walking in. I'm looking at it, and he's got an IV in the arm. The patient is out on general anesthesia. He's doing and people listening, he takes a piece of bone from the chin and grafts it to the maxilla to then do dental implants in the future. And I'm soaking all of this in, and I'm saying, what the hell is going on? This guy's an oral surgeon. He's doing general anesthesia here. He's cutting people open. He's putting screws. So I'm like, all right, this is really cool. So I worked with him all summer, and at the end of the summer, he's like, let me go. He goes, if you really want to do this stuff, let me take you to the hospital, show you how to do orthognathic surgery. Man, once I saw orthognathic surgery, it was done. I was like, all right, this is.
So for the audience that are not in the medical field, orthognathic surgery is basically repositioning of the facial bones for people that have underbites, overbites, or any type of facial anomalies.
Yeah. So that was like, I was like, okay, what the hell do I have to do to be able to do this? He's like, you got to go to dental school. I was like, okay, I'm going to dental school. So the grades went from shit to 3.5. My whole path, my whole career path just kind of became more focused. So I went into dental school thinking or knowing that I wanted to go into surgery, and it wasn't really going to dentistry to become a dentist. Not that there's anything wrong with dentistry. It just, that wasn't really on my radar. But the artistic aspect of dentistry is really cool, and it was fascinating to me. The hand-eye coordination that happens we're talking quarter of a millimeter type of finishes, and you're off 1 degree. I mean, these numbers that when you're in school, you're kind of like, what the hell is this all about? Like, who gives a shit if it's a quarter of a millimeter or half a millimeter or 1 millimeter? Yeah. So we were able to work on these like really small dimensions, which, at the time I had no idea I was even interested in cosmetic surgery. I didn't even know what cosmetic surgery was. I was oblivious to it. Mm-hmm. So, I get into surgery. I do my residency at Nassau University Medical Center, which is, kind of a sleeper program. We have Long Island Jewish, which is well known in Long Island. And then, I learned a lot of trauma there, man, gunshot wounds, all the crazy jaw surgeries and just things that, you would not think that oral surgeons do, because it's not your bread and butter stuff that's done in the office. So I really got, so when I did a plastics rotation, I got the itch. I was like, wait a minute, I can put people's, faces back together in a traumatic situation. So I'm trying to figure out how to do this stuff on an elective basis. So then that was it, man. It went from there, went to fellowship. In fellowship, you think you're the king because you are working with someone who's established, mm-hmm. and you're kicking ass. And then I came back to New Jersey, and I was like all pumped up, full of piss and vinegar. And I was like, I'm going to be the baddest motherfucker, mm-hmm. from the face around. And man, that was a rude awakening, dude. It was, you talk about the naysayers. I had 30 plastic surgeons. I had 30 oral surgeons basically saying, what the hell, you're a dentist trying to do cosmetic surgery. So, it was a 5-year battle to get privileges at the hospital. Mm-hmm. Some of it was, just people, from even our side, just delaying things. They got nothing out of it. So why would they try to fight for me? They didn't know me from Adam. And then the plastic surgeons and the general surgeons were like, well, you're not forget about an MD. You're just not qualified, So, we went through all that, and, I think that was probably the best thing that could have ever happened to me.
Why do you think, without trying to get too political into the conversation, why do you think that is? Why do you think people would make such, frankly, they're insulting statements. It's kind of like
Yeah.
it's kind of like degrading or diminishing one's training to their high school diploma. You might as well degrade it or diminish it to the high school diploma. And if you look at it, it's an insult. It's an insult that stems from ignorance.
Yeah, it's ignorance.
But why do you think that is? Why do, even colleagues from our own profession, or other profession, but then needless to say from our own profession, do that? Where do you think it stems from? Just curious what your experience has been.
Anytime someone does something different, I think people look at it and like, well, what's he trying to do? Or, I don't want to say jealousy. I think that's a slippery word. Like, I don't know how people feel really, but I think there's a sense of, who does this guy think he is? And, it might be a little bit of jealousy. It might be a little bit of, well, he think if he wanted to do cosmetic surgery, he should have been a plastic. I mean, but they don't really know, most oral max surgeons, especially the ones who were giving me a problem, who were older, they weren't really like, they're not really knowledgeable on like current,
True.
Now, that
it's a different,
it's a different training.
Different training. Yeah.
I also had very, very supportive oral max surgeons. I mean, but there were a few that actually were like in the director roles of the hospitals, like the program, the section chiefs, that they were just like, completely out of touch. They were 65, 70 years old, and their training was really limited, even though they would like to say to me, oh, I used to, resect jaws, and I used to do this. And I was like, come on, man, leave me alone. Yeah. They used to tell me, just get good at taking teeth out. I'm like, man, I'm already good at taking teeth out. It was a problem here. So, but the fuel, man, it was amazing. It was, it took a piece out of me, I will say, because there is a level of kind of this anxiety that's always happening when you're doing that. I'm much more calm now, as far as that goes. But it was rough, man. The first 5 years was rough to establish yourself, and it's just. But it is something that I will never forget. I'll never forget. And the other part of that is I try to not do that. I try not to be them, right? So I try not to be that naysayer. So when people come to me and say, hey, I am whatever, and I want to do breast lifts, or I want to do breast augmentation. You got the training, man. You can show the numbers. Yeah, man. God bless you. I'll support that 1,000%. So
yeah. See, what people realize is that people don't know what these specialties are supposed to do. People don't know. I mean, the layman doesn't know, obviously, what different specialties are supposed to do. So that's a problem. But also in the medical profession, not everybody is educated the same way and not educated enough to really realize that. And I had the same battles you had to fight. It took one educated chief of surgery in my local hospital to know about our training, because where he trained oral maxillofacial surgeons, they were badass, and they were, he worked with them, and he couldn't understand like why that is an issue. And I was just lucky because he happened to be the chief of surgery. And I said, look, there's a turf battle in every profession, as well as in medicine, as you know. And he happened to be a bariatric surgeon coming from general surgery. They have turf battles with that type of surgery with GI surgeons. And he understood that. And then that was the end of it. It was the easiest thing, because, he says, no, this is bullshit. Don't worry about it. And so we really updated the delineation of privileges that was like 40 years old. It was like 40 years old. Like, how come it wasn't updated? Because the oral surgeons that were on staff, they didn't care. They were just pulling teeth, and it's not the same. They didn't have the same training. So
but we had the same story as you, man. It's
so crazy. But the what is the lesson from this? I don't want to bore the audience with our stuff here, because it's so specialized. But the moral of the story is like, man, if you're passionate about something, you believe in yourself, you got to fight for it. You can't just let someone off the street come and tell you what to do, or worse, even someone give you advice that they haven't even gone that route, haven't even lived that life. They don't even, they're not even doing what you're doing. So like, why would someone, first of all, give you that type of advice that they don't know anything about it? And worse, even, why would you listen to someone's advice like that? And so, but that requires a certain level of competence and a certain level of confidence to believe. You have to believe in yourself. And so when you lay the foundation and the basis through your training, that's where competence and confidence comes from. And then you just can't be a pushover. You just have to fight. This life is not hard, easy. Life is hard. Unfortunately, you have to fight for your own rights. And it's so sweet, isn't it? Isn't it sweet when you achieve it finally? It's almost like your destiny and the journey is one and the same. There is almost no end. It just continues, just keeps fueling you to even achieve more, because you realize that if you want something really bad, if you really want something really bad, you're going to get it. I don't care what you think or what you believe. It's just a matter of time. Yeah. And what all you have to bring to the table is patience. And one of the things I realized, especially in today's world, is like patience is like a word that doesn't exist anymore. People want things done today, or better, even yesterday. And then if it doesn't work, they just jump to something else. They give up so easily. And then they realize why they're not happy people. And so how did that journey shape you today? What is it that you took from all of this, and how, what is your future? What is your north? What is your north? I know everything starts with a passion, like with a spark. Like you work with an oral surgeon, you're like, holy shit, this is cool stuff. That was just a spark. That was not like your north. I mean, when you're 19, your north is just like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I just don't want to disappoint my parents, and I just don't want to be on the street. No, that's your only focus. And then something sparks it. But then in the past 20 years, how have you changed? How has your life changed you? And what is your north today, Manolis?
So, I mean, first of all, the what I've learned is, like you said, patience, perseverance, consistency, getting up every day, doing, routine. Like I'm kind of a routine person. So I have to get up in the morning. I have to work out. I have to, these are like my little, like mini battles that I put in front of me every day, whether I call them mini battles or not. These are just my little hurdles that I have to do. So I think this persistence, this dedication, this adversity, these are all things that I kind of are in the fabric of who I am right now. And moving forward, I think that, I definitely want to practice, obviously, more, probably about 10 more years, 58, 60, and then definitely slow down a little bit. My wife and I love to travel, so the goal is to work my ass off, be a good person, never change. That stuff doesn't change. And then, at a certain point, enjoy those fruits of labor and go and see the world and, see the different cultures. I mean, there's nothing better to go to another country and just kind of like forget about the sightseeing stuff, because that's, you almost like a checklist. You have to do that. Yeah. Really just get ingrained into the culture of what's going on. And, we've traveled to places like Japan and, all over Europe and Bali. And the reality of it is, people ask, like, what did you go see? It's like, we don't even care about it. We want to go to the most authentic a restaurant where everyone in the place is Japanese. There's no tourists there. We go and we did the hot baths where I was the only, white guy in the entire bath. And I probably had more hair on me than everyone combined in there.
You mean on your face?
Yeah, I'm just here, right? Yeah. So the point is that, I love what I do. I love work. I brought in an associate. So
that you also teach, right?
I do. So I run a fellowship. So to go back to that one thing where you said, it's sweet, all this stuff that you went through, it's sweet. So the same hospital that was blocking my privileges, they now are the sponsoring institution for my fellowship, which was a huge, feather in my cap, and amazing ability to now turn around and say, you know what, that shit I went through, that hell I went through, all that stuff, it's almost like that erased it from the way I felt. It was like a release of this weight that I was bearing, because you still always have a chip on your shoulder. But now when I see all the people who were against me, they're the ones who feel weird.
Yeah,
I don't feel weird anymore. Yeah. They're the ones who feel weird. So there's definitely an acknowledgement of that fellowship that was just amazing. So yeah, man, I want to live life. I want to see the world. There's short. Life is short, man. My wife and I, we've had our drama in our lives, from health issues to, just, overall, things that, it just makes you sit and think. We've lost friends from cancer. We've lost friends from, even just suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I've lost my nephew from an overdose. So there's these little things that have happened over time that you sit there and say, I can't just sit around and work every day. And again, I love work. I'm passionate about it. We do all these things and we make people feel good. But the flip side of that sometimes is we have to make ourselves feel good, and we have to nourish our souls. And I think we spoke about this on the phone. There are times where we absorb so much, and we don't really take that time to for self-care. And so I think moving forward, I've always tried to have been a little bit conscious of that. So anyway, I brought a new guy on. Hopefully that can absorb some of the workload. I'm trying to bring him along. He's a full body cosmetic surgeon, also Oral Max, but did Kuzalinos. If you ever knows him, he's a full body cosmetic surgeon in Tulsa. So he's doing all sorts of wider scope than I even do, because you and I both just do face and neck. So the goal is that, man. The goal is to grow the practice, but also not be the 100% person who has to make the money and work for everything to keep going. So that's the future, man. Hopefully.
Yeah, that's important. One of the things that just that I was thinking to myself of what you just said, we work 24/7 and we absorb a lot of things, and just simply, I was just there. Was it on last Thursday? I had this 74-year-old patient, very sweet lady. She came with her daughter. And usually our patients aren't really that old. I mean, 74 is up there. And she was a very sweet lady. And she looked 10 years younger than her age. And she was just a happy person. And it was fun. Everything started with a fun conversation. And then I asked her, how I can help her. And she was mentioning, her aging face, et cetera, et cetera. And then I said, well, what motivates you now? I mean, you're 74. Why did you wait this long? And she started tearing up. And so I just listened. It's amazing when you listen to people, and a lot of times we sit there, listen to people. We ask them a question, why are you here? And then we start listening. By the way, I had to learn how to listen. We're so used to talking, when we're with patients, listening is just, it used to be my greatest challenge. And so I always remind myself, okay, just after you ask your question, Daria, shut up. Okay. Just let the patient talk. Okay. So now that's what I do. And every day I have to remind myself. So I just asked her that question, and then I was quiet. And then she started telling me the reason why she wants to do this. And she started off by saying that all her life, she did this, she took care of her children, and just within 15 minutes, she told me her whole life story, and it was so heartbreaking. And that almost like I had to suppress my tears, and I could barely swallow. And it reminded me what my passion really is, because our passion is not just to do a facelift or rhinoplasty. That's not it. It's just to help people to get to whatever they feel they missed, whatever they dreamt of all their lives, and why and how much effort and time it took them to take the courage to actually come and visit us finally, and then to have the courage to verbalize why they're here, brushing off all the stigma and all the pressure and all these naysayers. And it just takes so much courage. And when you listen to these people, you realize that. And so you absorb all of that, right? So you go home. Of course, we can help these people, and to a certain degree, but then you absorb all of that. It becomes, their lives become part of you, and you don't hear it like once or twice. It's every day. And I love hearing these stories, because a lot of these stories don't just inspire me, but they remind me why we're doing what we're doing. It's people think like we do things for the money. People think like we do things for status, for power. It's really not that hard. It's more simple than that. How about loving to help someone and making someone's day and making someone happy? How about that? Okay. But we absorb it.
Right.
Absorb it. It's like we have to absorb it. And I love the word you chose, because that's what we're doing. And I was just talking to my wife last week. I said, it's not just a physical challenge. It's or the burden. It's also the mental burden. It's like I don't know how psychologists actually do this. They do that for life, and we're like mini psychologists. By no means we're psychologists, but in a way we treat the patient as a whole. And I know you have a holistic approach to your patient, just not see them as object, but as people. So then you absorb all of that, you come home, but you don't have time to process things, because then life continues. It's like there's always something. And at some point, you need some avenue, you need a valve. And whether it is traveling, whether it is just, doing something completely different, hearing different stories in a different environment, going to Bali, doing a podcast, right. Just brainstorming and chatting with friends and colleagues. Right. And so what is that for you? How do you, I know you have a routine. I've been following your amazing YouTube channel. By the way, it's so fun. It's not just because we're doing the same thing, but it's for me to see someone that does what I do, but to see, the reasons why he does it, and, how he lives his life around his profession. You share so many personal and intimate things about your life in your YouTube show called Behind the Beard, and genius, by the way, Behind the Beard. You couldn't have named it better.
There's a story behind that one too.
Yeah. So I want to hear that, but how do you do that?
I think the reality of it is, my wife keeps me as grounded as I can possibly be. She's not from the medical field at all. She came from the fashion world. Medicine and this cosmetic stuff, all this stuff that I do, is kind of like really foreign to her. Before she met me, she was like, I don't even know what the hell an oral maxillofacial surgeon is. So
how's it now after 17 years?
Oh yeah, she knows exactly.
She's a pro.
Oh, she's a pro. She's a pro. She could diagnose and treatment plan anyone, probably better than me at this. Yeah. She's like, oh, that person had a facelift. I'm like, really? And she's like, I'm telling you, she had a facelift. So, she grounds me, and she allows me to flourish, and which is amazing. Without her support, none of this would even be possible, in the sense of, the time and effort that it takes to create a practice and all that stuff. And she's completely understanding. So without her, nothing happens. And, she allows me to disconnect from my, world of work, and and we can refocus onto something else. She's really into art, and she likes to go to museums. So it forces me, and we love restaurants. She's a guru of any restaurant in the world. Where we're visiting, she has the list of restaurants.
All right, next time I come to New York, I need the list.
Absolutely, dude. I mean, she has a running list that we can send you, because she gets asked ad nauseum. Where do I go? So she's pretty awesome with that. And she's awesome with everything. I mean, she's.
I hope she's listening.
I don't know. She's in another room, so I don't know. She'll listen to the podcast, but she's, again, she's the better half, and she grounds me. So her interests are completely, separate of my work interests, and that kind of helps the valve. You're releasing the valve, and she's also not. She's not shy of telling me, dude, you need to take a vacation. You need to chill out. You're revving up a little too hard right now, and so. And she listens, man. She listens to me. She's an amazing listener. Yeah. So that's my valve. Obviously, working out is my other valve. And then these things that we do that are kind of a little bit outside of the practice. We do behind the beard. I've been doing this line now, Fear of Aging, with my wife. She's designed that. And we have a design coming out. So nice. we have some stuff. We have some little projects that we're doing together, which also is really nice. It's exciting. It's exciting. So behind the beard, I'll just go right into it.
Yeah, please. I can't wait.
I'll tell you what happened, man. So the reason I even have a beard is, first of all, I'm hairy, obviously. So the beard, I always had a scruff. It was probably not as definitely
kind of like mine, or shorter, longer.
Yours, and maybe even a little bit longer. So during residency, dental school, I would have a little bit of scruff, but I would have to keep it about your length, because in dental school they want this like clean cut look, and it's fine, and So then I get into residency, and the residency program director is like, "Do you got to shave?" I'm like, every time I shave, I get these like bumps. It's bad. I get a folliculitis. It's really crazy. I don't like to do it. So I would always have like a little scruff. So he kind of bought that little, and then as I went through, residency, as I got a little bit, more senior, I would let the beard grow a little bit. So at the time I met my wife, we were, dating for however long. I went to fellowship. I came back. Now it's time to go to the hospital for an interview. So early in the morning, I shave everything. I'm clean shaven, and I go to the interview. It's my, credentialing committee interview. I go to the interview. I come home. I walk in, and my girlfriend at the time, she just says to me, she's looking at me like
she doesn't recognize you.
She's like, "What the hell did you do?
Where's Mano? Have you seen him?"
Yeah. She's like, "What the hell did you do?" I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, "What's wrong?" She's like, "Don't ever do that again." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Don't ever shave ever again." That was 2005.
Oh my God. I need to see a picture of that too.
I'll get you one. 2005, God, man. And
so now it's the picture in khakis and the shave.
I'll get you a khakis picture, and I'll get you a shaved picture. 2005, man. That was the last time I actually shaved. Like a razor went to my skin. Mm-hmm. So I don't really know what's going on under here right now. But so then over the years it kind of grew, and
it limits the skincare you need to do, right? It limits the skincare to around the eyes.
My laser basically goes from here to here now, so it's really simple. And then again, it's again, even something as simple as that has influenced the direction that my life and my professional life has gone to. Something as simple as her saying, "Don't ever shave ever again." And at the time I was kind of like,
so how did the behind the beard then evolve? How did you make the decision? Because you're sharing a lot of intimate aspects of your lives, and it's a very personal thing, and many people don't want to share stuff. I don't know whether they think they're protecting themselves and they don't want to expose themselves. But, the fact that, to me, one of the things that really interested me in getting to know you is I know you're an authentic person. And authenticity to me is above everything else, because without authenticity, you don't know who you're dealing with. And beginning of the podcast, I introduced you as someone who, yeah, what you see is what you get. It's so true. But what led you to share yourself with the entire world?
So at first, it was basically I didn't really do any marketing. I didn't really do any kind of like advertising. I was always just like doing my thing. It was all word of mouth. And at some point I was like, all right, man, maybe I need to do like something,
Mm-hmm.
And again, the reason that we did it in this fashion was I don't want to be famous. I could give a shit about that. It's not about creating like a reality show, but it was more about it was twofold. One, it was just because I'm a surgeon or just because I do facial surgery, it doesn't mean I have to wear the white lab coat or have the clean shaven face or act a certain way. Like I'm going to act who I am, and that should not change whether or not you want to come to me as as a surgeon or not. If I want to say the F word, I should be able to say the F word. If I want to have a drink, I should be able to have a drink. So, if I want to wear leather pants or I want to, have a tattoo, like these things it's kind of shouldn't really play a role.
So yeah, I 100% agree with you, because like I said, it's all about authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
How do you respond? Obviously, your success is a response to all those naysayers or all the people that say, no, you have to fit in a certain category. You have to be clean shaved, wear a white coat, and this is how you do things. Our society kind of has already made the decision and has already determined how we're supposed to present ourselves. It's almost like we're not allowed to present ourselves for who we are, just by society says a doctor has to look like that. And you see a caricature of a doctor, right. It looks like a clean shave. It's like, perfect hair, all white coat, and like a white guy, some gray hair. And and still people, like you said in your residency, and still people there, the society expects you to present yourself a certain way. Obviously your success, the fact that you are doing what you're doing, speaks more than words. And so how would you respond, though, to those people that would tell you you shouldn't be doing these things? What's your response to them?
Yeah, well,
other than letting your success speak for itself.
Well, that's part of it, obviously, but no, I just, I think that when people have such a closed-minded approach to what someone should be, and the paradigm of what you should be like because this is your profession, paradigms shift, and they shift for reasons. If we trained and we did the same thing that we did 30, 40, 50 years ago, we would never evolve. We would never progress. You could be moving, but if you're moving in a circle, you're not progressing anywhere. So you need to move, but you need to like, move that needle, man. And part of, again, maybe part of this whole thing of like, being an oral max and having to prove myself and people saying no all the time. Maybe I just felt like I needed to move that needle in a way where others could look at it and say, you know what, I'm different. I can be different. I don't have to look the same as, the prototypical doctor, surgeon, cosmetic surgeon. And I think that's my answer to them is, I'm going to do me. I'm going to be myself, true to myself. It may not be what you want or may not be what you recognize, but that's okay. And we can agree to disagree. And that's one of those things in this world right now that no one really just wants to, they can't just agree and be like, okay, we agree to disagree. They have to like get that last word in and that last whatever. It's like, you know what? There's no one right or wrong way of doing things. people may look at me and say, I would never do that like that. And that's okay,
Yeah.
and I look at them and say, I would never do that. And again, I
Fair
think that
enough.
personalities, man. I mean, if we were all robots and we all did the same thing the same way, it would just kind of be a very interesting, like a boring life.
So what is some of the things that your comments from your patients and and I know and for those of you who don't know Manolis, his patients, they love him, and it's like there's so many people in this world. It's like you don't have to work with everyone. You don't have to be friends with everybody. You
Yeah.
don't have to make everybody happy. As long as you're self happy, it's like I believe in law of attraction. The people that align with you, they will find you, and that's the beauty. You don't have to worry about the ones that you're not seeing. And so, what has your experience been?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I mean, our patients. There's a reason our patients are coming to
Right.
us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there again, there's some outliers that happen, right? There's some people that come into your office. You're like, why is this lady or guy even coming to me? That doesn't make any bit of sense. And usually the stuff works itself out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, it's one of those. Excuse me. It's one of those things where patients are attracted to whatever they're attracted, and they seek you out. And to your statement is, we always in our brains, like, we always want to be busy. We always want to do this. We always want to be, the person who does the most faceless. That's great, I guess, but that's not reality. There's always going to be someone who does more. There's always going to be someone who has more cases. There's always going to be someone who has more money. There's always going to be someone who more. If we can't focus on that, because that will never make you happy. You only have to focus on the positive things that are happening to you currently, right now. And we're planners, obviously, because there's no way you can get to where we are without planning futures and scheduling and stuff like that. But the reality of it is, if you don't really take the second to soak in the now, you're never going to be happy. You're never going to be happy.
That's so well said.
Some people say to me, well, what do you like to do? Because I still do a little bit of oral surgery. They're like, what do you like to do best? What's your favorite thing? My answer is always, whatever I'm doing is my favorite thing. If I'm putting in a dental implant, that's my favorite thing to do. If I'm doing a rhinoplasty, that's my favorite thing to do. There is no like.
It's like someone asks you who's your favorite child if you have children, or you have 3 dogs or 5 cats. Which one is your favorite? It's like you can't. Or some people ask you, what's your favorite dish? I'm like, it depends on the day. What's your favorite art? I don't know. It depends on the day. It's so well said. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I couldn't have said any better. And one of the things that I, advice I try to give people, which is some advice that I learned through my own life, is essentially within the same line of what you just said, is you just got to do you. You got to do you, and then you just got to let the chips fall, man. You can't overthink it. You can't always try to over plan and exactly know the final outcome, or it's just, life doesn't work that way, man. I mean, you plan a road trip, you could get a flat tire. You didn't plan that flat tire, right? It could start raining or hailing, I don't know. You could, God forbid, get in an accident. I mean, so many things can happen. So you just got to do you, and then let the chips fall. But if you do you got to be authentic, man. You better be authentic, because then you won't be happy. It just doesn't work that way. You can't live someone else's life. And our society is just so great at telling us how we should live, how we should dress, how we should behave. I mean, we live in just this cancel society type of canceling out society, that if you don't fit within a certain paradigm or a group, like, you're being canceled. I mean, one of the things that you're seeing this, this political situation. Now, I'm here in DC, and it's just this extreme radical left liberalism that zero tolerance. Like if you don't believe what they believe in, like you're like a Nazi or something like that. I mean, our society has become so extreme and so intolerant that people are afraid to express themselves. And what you're doing, I mean, it's so courageous, but yet not, because it's just authentic.
Right.
Some people might call it naive. It's just, to me, it's self-awareness, man. I mean, what happened to self-awareness? Like, why do people have to call someone that is self-aware and is authentic, certain names, just because they're afraid, and maybe that subconsciously they wish they could be like Mano, and they don't have the courage, and they don't like to see that about themselves, and they appear weak in their own mind. And that's one way to cope with it, is just to bash people that are authentic, to bash people that say what they believe in. And so I feel our society is really suffering, man. I mean, I don't know where all of this is going to end. I don't know what's happening. Maybe in 10 years, we'll be up for a rude awakening. We realize that what we have done, and even in universities and in hospitals and those institutions, is even getting more extreme. I mean, like you said, you had to shave and people would frown upon you. It's like, dude, I just can't shave, man. I'm getting injured. Do you realize that? And it's like, no compassion for that, just because you have to fit within a certain paradigm. So I don't know where this is going to lead. And, all I know is one thing, man. It's your life. You have one life. I don't know what happens after this life. Okay. You could just waste this life and think you're going to live in a better life later on, just for the reasons for tomorrow. But I don't believe that. I mean, without getting too religious or philosophical, this is the life I got. And if I know that if I don't live it authentic, and if I don't live it to, for my own happiness, I've wasted it, and I don't know what's to come. So, I wish, and I hope that when people listen to this and listen to your story and listen to this podcast, and who you are, and how you became who you are today, that they realize it's not that hard, man. You can't value other people's opinion, whether it's good or bad. You can't overvalue praise, because if you overvalue praise, you're going to overvalue criticism.
That's right.
And then you live, every decision you make is then based on that. And then at some point you forget even who you are, what makes you happy. And then next thing, you're in your deathbed thinking, what the fuck just happened?
Yeah, exactly.
And
you're absolutely right.
And,
yeah, I look at that as like when actors, they put on a play, or they're in a movie, and then they look at the critics, the response. Yeah, man, you gotta have some thick skin to do that. Like, you can't, if, like you said, if you're gonna believe the good, you're gonna have to believe the bad. Yeah. And that is a terrible way to live, man, off of someone else's opinion. Two things, man. You got to love yourself, and you got to respect others. And if you do those two things, if you love yourself and you respect others, man, you're going to have a really, really fulfilling, complete life. It's really simple.
Amen. So what do you like your legacy to be, Mano? Like you said, you're going to retire in 10, 15 years maybe. And have you thought about your legacy, your footprint in this world ever, or is it too early to ask this question?
Yeah, that's I don't think I've really given it too much thought. I think I just want people to say, hey, he was a guy. He was an everyday guy. He was a good dude, and that's it, man. I don't, the professional stuff to me it's work and it's passion. If someone says, hey, man, there was this guy 50 years ago, he used to wear a beard, and that's kind of cool. But that stuff that's meaninless, man. It's in the sense of like legacy. It really is. You just want to be known as he was a good guy. And I think if that's my legacy, then I'm happy, man. That's really what it comes down to.
Beautiful. So any lesson you can give your own 19-year-old self? Sure. I remember the day your dad hooked you up with that roaster.
Yeah.
Any lesson you could today give your 19-year-old self on that day?
Wow, man. It's all going to work out. That's what I would have told myself. That's from right here, telling my 19-year-old self, stay the course. It's all going to work out. Because I had no idea then. Just, be strong and keep going. That's it. That's all I would have said.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mano. So, episode's over. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with this genuinely nice and cool dude from New Jersey and Manhattan. If you would like to learn more about Dr. Manolakakis, please don't forget to check into his YouTube channel called Behind the Beard and follow him on Instagram and social media at Dr. Manolakakis. Hope you have a happy Father's Day, and until next time.